So Christian's the SLM, he's the supervising location manager.
SLM?
Yeah. So he's our big boss in our department.
I think people think that we have a very glamorous job, and that people think that perhaps that because Brad Pitt might be in the film that somehow the work we do is glamorous. It is as far as being glamorous.
But you've got to prove yourself. You've got to go out and find results. You know, if someone's hiring me, we're all freelance. So if someone's hiring me on a daily basis and I don't provide results as a young scout, they're not going to invite me back to do another day's work.
You realise that you can't do it all yourself. So the other important thing to do is to have a team around you like Paul and James who you can hand over work to. I've always found it quite hard to delegate, to hand over work, because I always want to do it myself, but you realise that you can't.
They're both location managers.
Yeah.
I mean, Christian's used to being a supervising location manager, but Paul also does that. You know, when I first worked with Paul, he was an SLM on a different project, but obviously people jump up and down to go to different jobs because, you know, it depends on the length of the job, how big the job is, you know, whether they wanted to have a break.
I come from a background of working on budgets that are much, much tighter than he has had experience with. So he's used to being able to throw a little bit of money at the problem to get the job done, whereas I like a deal.
Maybe I'm not assertive enough, but I try not to be assertive. I try to sort of allow people to realise what's coming.
How are we going to make it work? Because it was an ambitious shoot for 4 nights with many people.
And my face just fell. I thought, oh my God, this is going to be impossible to do, because all the restaurants are busy. They're all full all the time. They do amazing business. And it's a small show, so we didn't have huge amounts of money. And I thought, I'm never going to have enough money to close all these restaurants down.
Yeah, no, the trucks have real problems here.
I've learned to do over the years is that when you want to do the most impossible thing, what you do is you ask for help. You don't assert what you want. You ask for guidance, and you ask for help, and you ask for suggestions.
And it's basically this stretch from here down to the mosque we're going to be controlling. Catering the food for everybody, because you're stopping for an hour. We've got up in Power League where everyone's parking their cars.
That's for tomorrow, yeah.
From today.
And it was decided fairly early on from Christian that we would want to try and find a base within this area. And once we had that base, we wanted to get to know the community and kind of embed ourselves into the community.
Christian at the top obviously just wanted to make sure that everyone understood what we were doing, because it's such a busy area, Brick Lane, but there's a really strong Bangladeshi community. Then he wanted to make sure that everyone, even people who might not have English as their first language, that they would understand what we're doing, so that no one's confused. And on the days we're filming, we don't have anyone coming out going, what are you doing here?
And I think that day when we met all the restaurant owners, to me, was really revealing, because they were all friendly, they were all interested, and the one thing they said was, listen, if you're going to make Brick Lane look fantastic, we'll cooperate, we'll help. You don't need to pay us £thousands to close this. We'll cooperate with you. Show our restaurants open, show them busy. And so, if you like, that was the challenge of Brick Lane. I've never done a movie in which we've walked past 30 restaurants with 2 actors, with the whole film crew, shut down the pavements, shut down the street, changed all the light bulbs, changed all the dressing. I've never done that before, so it was quite a thrill to come and do it on Brick Lane, and it was also a huge challenge. And it was the end of our movie, the end of our time. And at the same time, I was also kind of, in a weird way, quite worried about security, because Riz is quite a famous guy, and I thought, there might be somebody down here who doesn't like him. There might be somebody who wants to come up and thump him. And so, at the same time, you're always worried that in an environment where you're very public and you've got the actors on the street and everything, you're also worried that something weird's going to happen. And someone's going to come along and not like what we're doing. And I'd noticed very much that Brick Lane's wonderful up until about midnight, and after midnight it changes a little bit. All the restaurants shut down, the club's open, it has a different vibe. We met you, and I remember us coming to sit with you to describe to you what we wanted to do, and we came up with a very different idea of how to do it. But actually dealing with the restaurants was great fun. It was great fun to get to know all those owners. They were all such characters, they were all so different. And yeah, I mean, it's nice now. I can't walk up and down without someone shouting "Hello, Christian" at me, which is just a nice feeling. You know, it was obviously, I think we did a good job here. I think we respected everybody, and with your help, I think everyone was content with what we did. But It was hard work. And I was very worried something was going to go wrong, but thank God it didn't. I think there is an energy on Brick Lane that I just picked up. I just thought, this is why people love it, because it's just got so much going on here. And I think that's what Riz wanted to capture. And I think, that's why we came. So no one's going to remember what we did. Yeah. No one's ever going to stay and watch the credits. None of that stuff, because that's the role we play. We're in the background. Riz Ahmed, who was the lovely producer, actor, star of this show we've just done, called Call to Life, he had written it in the script, and he had written in a restaurant close to Brick Lane. And I came to see the restaurant and realised it was one of the busiest restaurants here, and it wasn't great for filming, and it was a beautiful place to eat. But so I said to him, could we, because he'd written the name of the restaurant, and we managed to persuade him that perhaps that wasn't the best restaurant to shoot in, and we found another restaurant with a lovely family. And so the big part of Brick Lane was the restaurant scene. But it involves them walking, and involves dialogue for about 20 pages of dialogue, which is very unusual to do a dialogue scene. There's 20 pages of dialogue up and down Brick Lane. So we came here, and he basically said to me, what can I have? And I said, well, what do you want? Because I didn't quite understand how much control he wanted of the restaurant. He said, well, I want to be outside all of the restaurants. Yeah.
Would you recommend anyone Brick Lane as a location? Would you recommend?
Well, I have been. I mean, I've had maybe 6 phone calls since I left from other location managers saying to me, well, you've just been on Brick Lane, how did it go? So I feel like I'm a PR agency now for Brick Lane, because I said it went very, very well. But I said, you need to be very careful how you approach it, very careful about what you want to do here, and to be honest, I always recommend you.
Oh wow!
I say I have a key to Brick Lane. His name is Saeed.
His name is okay. What would you say to people who are aspiring to be location managers or come into locations, and how would you say what route should they follow if they wanted to become in location?
The hardest thing,
or even the film industry as a whole, like
the hardest thing is to get your first job. That is the single most difficult thing to do. Mm-hmm. It's finding somebody to give you a job. Mm-hmm. And we have an old expression that once you're in, if you're any good, you stay in. Okay. But if you're no good, you get booted out. You have to just passionately believe that it's your thing, and that's what you want to do more than anything else. So if you can find someone like myself, and if you can write that person enough emails, send that person enough text messages, banter that person, eventually, if you've got a nice manner and you've got a good approach and you've got a good heart, you'll be given a day. You'll be given a day's work on a film set doing something very boring. And if you're any good, you'll flourish.